Alright, check it out guys. We're going to go ahead and build up these GPM diffs today. Fully built up cases. We're going to do the bearings. We're going to use the stock Traxxas O-rings and gaskets. Basically, this whole box for 3 diffs. Let's build them. Alright, check this out. So I just want to give you guys the rundown on these gears really quick. They're actually consistent of all the spider gears. It's going to be part number XRT1200S/BK. We're going to do the outdrives. And then here's the part to pay attention to. I like to build all the diffs with the Traxxas part number 7783X. Alright, these are going to be the cases. Let me show you why I like to use the GPM cases over the stock or actually any other brand. So if you take a look inside, kind of hard to see, but you can see how there is a groove in there. And then if you look at this part number 7783X, you can see these spacers, they kind of have this little groove on them, and those fit nicely into all these diffs. So let's rip it open, all these parts, and I'll build them up and I will show you exactly what I use, and I'll give you any tips and tricks so you can do it at home by yourself and slap them in your truck. Let's go. Well, the first thing I like to do is I just go ahead and mark all the diffs, front, center, and rear. I'll just use my knife and I'll just kind of inscribe it. This makes it a lot easier to remember where they go. Don't cut yourself. So we got an F for front, so we'll use this for the front. I'll show you the oil we're using soon. So we'll go ahead and mark all these. Call this the center. I know we're scratching them up a little bit, but it's kind of what racers do. It's what we all do. So rear, the R is the hardest. Alright, so if you do a fairly good job, it looks pretty nice, and then you got them all marked, front, center, and rear. And you could probably do them all the same direction, but there we go. They are marked. Let's build them up. Mod 1.6. These are the spiral gears. They have a little ring right around the edge there. And then the bearings also come with them. These are all high medium carbon steel, or medium carbon steel, excuse me. Spider gears. And then here are the spacers I was talking about with the little ridge in the center. That little ridge sits right inside and works out perfect. So, okay, so if you are using your old stock diffs, just clean up your old O-rings. Try to focus that. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and grease up all the O-rings. Take a little bit of Cal RC Udder Butter in my fingers, and we'll just go ahead and lube them all up. So it's actually kind of hard to see probably on the camera, but there's actually a ridge in there, and you want to fill that ridge with the grease after they're lubed up. So I'll hold them in my hands like that and just kind of smooth that grease right around, and it fills up that void, keeps your diffs from leaking. Take that same grease and grab your shafts, the spider gear shafts, and just kind of grease those up as well. I know they're going into the silicone diff oil, but I just kind of grease those up. And then even the gears, just so that they spin more freely, because we're freshly building these and everything's kind of dry. So I'll just take all the gears, all the spacers, all the shafts, including the sun gears as well, while my gloves are on and all greasy, and just kind of roll them around, kind of lube them up a little bit. And it's going to help everything start spinning freely when you start to tighten everything down in the case. Alright guys, so the whole reason I kind of do this whole diff build situation is because you don't want to just go ahead and throw all these parts together and then put them in the diff oil and then tighten all the stuff down and then turn on your truck and give it a rip. It's important that you get all these parts lubed up because they're all brand new, fresh from the factory. They're not greased or oiled or anything, so when you put them all together they kind of want to bind and whatnot. So all that grease, udder butter, is going to help you make sure all your parts are just spinning nice and free. So we got all the shafts and spider gears, and then the 7083X, we got that installed. And just go ahead and make sure everything is spinning freely. And you know, companies, you know, have defects sometimes, and it's good to catch that. You know, you might have a bad gear, but in my experience, I haven't had any bad gears from GPM. These have been the best gears I have run, especially the Mod 1.6 in these medium carbon steel. Go ahead, put your washers on, install your lubed up O-ring. Just go ahead and drop that bad boy down in there. Grease up where the race is going to sit. A little bit of grease as well on the gasket. Don't forget to grease your gasket, guys. You might have a blowout. We don't want any oil blowing out of the diffs. Oh, we can't forget the center diff, the input and the output. That's TXM82051TS-BK. Guys, you can find all these parts on my website. I'll leave a link in the description below. Alright, let's see. What do these bad boys look like? Oh man. So I got to get these bad boys out so we can stick the sun gears in. So there is that. And then here's the input. I think I finally got it right. So that completes the full GPM upgrade right there. Check him out. Oh yeah. Okay, so we need to put some bearings on there, obviously. So let's use these. These were Fast Eddy bearings. Yes, so these are Fast Eddy 17 by 26 by 5. I think they're like $1 a bearing, so we need 6. So 2, 4, 7. I think we got the right amount there. So time to move on and fill the diff. So for the front diff, we're gonna go with 30K. Excuse me. For the rear diff, we're going to go with 30K. For the front diff, we're going to go with associated 20K. And then for the center diff, we're going to go with 20 million. Now, the center diff being 20 million is not quite locked up, but it is providing equal power to both front and rear wheels. Now, we're not going super thin on the oil, but for such a big truck, 20K is pretty light. And I like to consider it more traction instead of putting, like, say 1 million or locking the front, or even putting a 20 million or 1 million in there. I like to go a little lighter. That way you still get traction when you're in the corners and you're on power. I like to build these and put that little spacer with the narrowed piece going down into the case. And what I like to do is just put the first set of spiders in the case, and then I'll go ahead and put the amount of oil I want, and then I'll drop the second set of spiders in, and then I'll show you where to fill it up. Then I'll tell you where to fill up your oil and cap that off at. So here we go. Remember, we got the rear because we got it marked, and we're going to go ahead and use the 30K, 20K in the front, Alright, sweet. If you're watching, John, I'm taking good care of you, buddy. Now, the last thing you want to do, obviously, before you top it off, just make sure your gears are spinning nice and free. Go ahead and use on your pinions. Make sure they're spinning in there. We're going to go ahead and add the rest of the oil. And you just want to fill it up right to the top edge of the crossbar. Right there. You can even be exposed just the fuzz. That top crossbar. oil or anything, but you don't want to overflow it. It's not good. Gears won't spin if you overflow it. Alright. Alright. So we'll let that sit. We'll come back and we'll move on to the center diff, which is the 20 million. This stuff is like goo. And here, let me show you. I should just start weighing it so I know exactly how much to put in. It's probably the best thing to do is weigh it, but definitely you don't want to overfill the center because look at this. There we go. So before I add my bearings to the cases, I like to add a little bit of grease, udder butter, inside the race. That way when you get water in there after you've been in a puddle or you're washing your vehicle, that little bit of water does not cause rust. So a little bit of udder butter there, a little bit of udder butter around the part where the race is going to sit. And go ahead and snap all your bearings on. Kind of show you the fit. Again, these are 7075 T6. You can find these on my website. Mod 1.6 spiral cut gears. Check those out. Mod 1.6. And then, so there's one thing that you definitely want to make sure when you're assembling these gears. You know, you've got all the grease in them and all the oil in them, and you're going to start buttoning them up. So you got your gaskets in there, and then you're going to go ahead and line up all the holes, you know, blah 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 blah. Kind of get that seated in there. And before you even apply any screws, go ahead and grab one of your out drives or, you know, one of the pinions, and just make sure those things are kind of spinning freely, okay? And then last but not least, like I said, go ahead, get yourself some Loctite, some really good Loctite. We'll go ahead and Loctite up all these screws, and then we'll screw them all down, and we'll keep checking them as we go, making sure they're spinning freely. Alright, so same goes for the front and the center diff. So we'll just kind of go ahead and snug them down. Now this is the initial test right here. So I got them snug. So we'll grab an out drive. These are the out drives we are going to be using right here in this build. These are by GPM as well. Check them out. They're super nice.